Hello. Today we're just doing a quick firearms review. The reason I'm doing this is because someone was asking me about this rifle on a forum just a couple of days ago, and I looked on YouTube to see if I could give them a link to sort of show them the rifle, and there really wasn't any. It was mentioned a few times, but nothing really comprehensive. So I thought I'd put something up there. Now what this is a Savage Model 23. The Savage Model 23 was made from, I think, 1923 through until 1942, when obviously Savage was busy starting to make World War II small arms. It's a bolt-action repeater, magazine fed. And looking at it, you'll probably think, oh yeah, it's a 22 or whatever, but it's actually not. This is actually a 32-20 bolt action, which you can imagine is probably quite unusual. Now, the Savage Model 23 was made in 4 main variants. There was one called a 23A. There was also one called a 23AA, I see on the net. But basically those are just a 22 long rifle version of this. I think the AA may be just a target version with beef side or something like that. But yeah, 23A is a 22 version of these. I've never seen one of those even advertised in Australia. I've kept my eye out, so they mustn't be that common here. Now, then there was the 23B. That was a 25-20 variant. The 23C is the 32-20 variant. That's what I've got here. And then there was the 23D, which was made in 22 Hornet. Now, I'll show you a close-up, some close-up description of the rifle. One thing I thought I should mention with these rifles is my rifle here. I'll show it to you close up in a while. It's actually just marked Savage Sporter, and it's got Savage Arms Corporation on the address and all that. It doesn't actually say Savage Model 23 on it anywhere. I'm not sure if all of these were the same, but I see them advertised in the second-hand gun market. Sometimes they advertise as Savage Model 23s. Sometimes they just advertise as Savage Sporters, because the sellers probably don't know what they are. They just know that they're a Savage Sporter and 32-20 or whatever. So if you see a rifle advertised 25-20 or 32-20 Savage Sporter, you know it's one of these. The 22 Hornets, I'm not quite so sure, because I think some of the later Savage model Savages, they call them Sporters as well, and some of them might have been 22 Hornets. So, but anyway, if you're looking for one of these, that's what to look for, either a Savage Model 23 or a Savage Sporter. Alright, so I've just started with the markings on the barrel. I'm not sure how well you can read that. I can't really get any closer than that and still have it focused, but it basically says manufactured by Savage Arms Corporation, Utica, New York. There's a heap of patents, 1905, 1917. So they're probably patents on 22 version of this general design, I would say. And then it just says, just there in between that and the sight, as you can see, it just says Savage Sporter. So as you can see, I mean, if you're familiar with general bolt action 22 rifles, there's not much different here. So you can see it's quite a stiff action. You can sort of see why it's pretty accurate. It's only just got this one hole in the whole tube. Now the bolt is removed, same as most other 22s, just pulling the trigger and it comes out. I'll show you the bolt in a second. So now what we would have a look at now is the magazine. Now these rifles, this is actually an early one, and they call this the cheese grater style magazine for obvious reasons. Now the way that these magazines come out is there's actually a leaf spring in the front here and a catch at the back. So it won't come out because it's caught in here, inside here on the catch, but if you push it forward against the leaf spring, it releases the little notch. There's the notch there, you can see it at the back, and allows the magazine to come out. Now these magazines are harder to get than the rifle actually. I was lucky enough to see one on the net. I had one came with a rifle, was a bit dinged around, and then I think this is, I'm not sure if this is the original one or no, this thing. Oh yeah, I think this is the original one. But as you can see, it says Savage 2520 or 3220, so same magazines. Now, so obviously the 22s had, I'm not sure if the receiver was the same, they always have different, 22 magazine, the 22 variants. And obviously a different bolt too, with a rimfire bolt. Now later on in the production, I think it was probably sometime in the 30s, they obviously decided this system wasn't so good, and they so just push it in. See, it hasn't sort of quite gone in yet, but there we go, it's in now. They changed the magazine to more of a what we're familiar with, a normal looking magazine with some sort of magazine catch on here. Now I think the 22 Hornets, they were made only in the last few years of production, and I think they were only made after the changes made. So you won't see a 22 Hornet rifle with this style of magazine. They have a special magazine. I'm not sure if they're different to the later model 25 and 32, but it's worth mentioning this because you will see Savage Model 23 magazines advertised. I think Triple K make them, but I'm fairly sure they're not this early style, they're the actual later style of magazine. So so that's probably just worth noting. So yeah, the other features of this, well, let's just show you the bolt first. Just get the rifle out of the way for a sec. So again, it's just a slightly enlarged version of what you would expect a rimfire bolt to be. The only difference being most rimfires, bolt action rimfires, just lock on the bolt handle, locking in the action. This actually has a locking lug. See, there's a locking lug there. I would say, I don't know, as I said, I've never actually even seen one of the 22 versions, the 23 model 23A. I would say they probably have a different bolt, which is a rimfire, and I doubt if they actually have that locking lug on there, but I'm not sure about that. But yeah, pretty basic sort of twin extractors. I think there's a plunger, there's a firing pin in there. Oh, there's an ejector. If we look, I'll show you, we'll have a look in the rifle. I can see, I haven't really looked that closely at this. You can see there's actually an ejector in there, like a little metal ejector. Now we'll just put the bolt back in. And back here we've got a safety catch. Now it has to be cocked actually. There we go. Now the way this works is if you look at this, safety catch is on. You can see it no longer says fire there, so that you know that it's safe. And when you need to fire it, you just use your thumb to put the safety catch on like that. So it's actually not a bad design. We've got this little slot here, which is obviously just a safety in case of a ruptured cartridge or primer. The gases, because this side of the action, the bolt's pretty tight in the hole, but that would allow the gases to escape out of there. So I'd say that's what that's for. The barrel is about 24.5 inches. I measured it at. I'm not sure if that's the original sight that was on there or not. So it's got a lot of wear on it, but it looks like an old Lyman sight or something like that. Just a pretty, what you'd expect from that period type of graduated sight. Steel butt plate with SVG. There we go. See that SVG on the butt plate. So yeah, so not a bad look piece of walnut either, I must say. One of these days I'll strip that back and true oil it and make it look nice. But it's actually, as you can see, it's in pretty not bad for its age. It's in not bad condition. Funnily enough, I was looking for one of these in my local gun shop. I got a pretty good relationship with him. I got him to keep an eye out for me, and he got one in, but it didn't have the original stock. It had been drilled and had a scope mount on it, and I said, I didn't really want that. But then it was one of those fate sort of things. About 6 months later, I walked in the shop. He said, "Oh, I got something for you. Pull this out." So someone had just walked in with it, and so he knew he had to sell. He had to buy for it straight away. So 280 Australian dollars it cost me. So yeah, that's about it. Really fairly simple but unusual rifle. So if you're sort of like me and you like unusual firearms, then you know, they might be interested in one of these. If you think about firearms in 3220, of course I think 3220 was designed by Winchester for the model 1873. Of course it was chambered. Probably the most common 3220s you'll see out there are the 1892 Winchesters. It was chambered in a variety of single shots, the 85 Winchester and a variety of other American single shots. You will see it in some other single shot break action sort of rifles. Of course it was chambered in revolvers as well at the end of the 19th and early 20th century. But as far as I know, as far as I can think of, I think this is the only bolt action repeater, 3220 or 2520 for that matter, that there is. I'm always interested in the sort of history and, you know, social history surrounding firearms too. And if you think about this rifle and the period when it was made, 1920s, 1930s, between the wars, you know, people didn't have a lot of money. The Great Depression sort of started in sort of early 1930s. So you can imagine people who needed a firearm, either for hunting, putting food on the table, possibly farmers or whatever. They may not have wanted to, they might have needed something a bit bigger than a 22, but may not have wanted the expense and both of the rifle and of the ammunition of a full-size high-powered rifle. So this is obviously a compromise. Now if you look at the way this was made too, I forgot to mention before, very similar to a lot of the 22 rifle, bolt-action rifles from that period. The barrel and receiver are all made from one piece of steel. You haven't got a receiver that's made separately and a barrel screwed into it or pinned into it. So that would be a cheap way of making it. So I don't know for sure how much these were when they were new, but I would say they would have been cheaper than, for example, a Winchester 1892 in 3220. So I can kind of see where the appeal would have been back in the day when Savage was selling these, and they must have sold quite a lot of them because they, you know, even here in Australia, they're around. So you know, fantastic rifle for you know, a young shooter who's learning, who wants to step up from a 22 long rifle, but probably doesn't want to go to something with a heap of muzzle blast and recoil, or female shooters. Or if you're hunting some game that's not too large and you want something that's reasonably quiet, this will suit the bill. So yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please push the like button. Subscribe if you like. I regularly put up videos of either talking about unusual firearms or sometimes repairing them. And so I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.